Welcome to UC Distribution. Now, before you say a word, I am required to inform you that formal complaints cannot be filed until the customer feedback system is back online. I have been told it'll be up and running in 2 weeks, but you know how these things are. I am sorry for any potential inconvenience. Also, if you're here about a corporate account, I've been assured that deliveries will be back on schedule soon.
Of course, because that is what good customer service is all about.
Well, certainly.
Captain's log, star date, tetrahedron, periwinkle, Alice, 42.6, having secured satisfactory apparel to cover my ugly underpants. I have now shifted my focus to offloading my unwanted inventory from the lodge and my most recent questing by perusing the various vendors of New Atlantis, beginning of course with the UC Distribution Center. Greetings, my intrepid crew. I'm your captain, Punchy's 69, and I welcome you to my 19th video in my playthrough of Starfield. Since the UC Distribution Center is a generally goods vendor, they sell a variety of items. So we shall begin with the weapons, as well as various protective apparel to better equip myself for battle. As you can no doubt see, the selection of boost packs and helmets is quite limited, while the weapons are very expensive. There is not much I can spare in the way of funds for such expensive gear. However, I believe I shall purchase some frag grenades in case I run into someone or something that needs to be fragged. Unfortunately, the aid item section is also limited, so I believe we shall move on to the resources section. However, I question why the ship parts are located in the aid item section. They seem out of place among various food items and medical supplies, while they would make more sense in the resources section. It would seem that the items in the resources section are far less expensive than the items in other sections. This is quite fortunate, as we shall need much in the way of crafting resources to improve the weapons, boost packs, helmets, and space suits that we have available. Even so, we must take care to prioritize the cheapest and most necessary of crafting resources, as I only have so many credits to spend. It would seem the selection of crafting resources is quite vast, alas, it is difficult to tell at this early stage of the game, which crafting resources will be most necessary, or which may be acquired through simple exploration. I could end up spending precious few credits on a resource, only to go exploring in the open landscape and find a great deal more of that resource, thereby robbing myself of the opportunity to spend those credits on a resource that is far less accessible. I could also end up spending far too many of my precious few credits on a resource that I barely need, while neglecting to purchase enough of a resource that I need in much greater quantity. Having purchased all that I can for the time being, I must now shift my focus to offloading my various unwanted items for much needed credits, beginning, of course, with my various miscellaneous items. As you can no doubt tell, with my barter skill at such a low rank, I am forced to sell my items for far less than their proper value. I can only hope that I will be able to sell enough to make up for the credits I have spent, and that I will not be too terribly sore up in there from being horrendously ripped off on the price of my goods. Fortunately, I have a great many items to sell. However, the prices for which I am forced to sell my many items are far lower than that of their proper value. I must also make sure not to sell certain special items that I may wish to keep, or certain miscellaneous items that appear to be of use in some future quests. Thankfully, most of these items are of no consequence. However, some of the decorative items are quite pretty, and I should wish to hang on to a few. These next few items, for instance, are rather lovely, and I may keep the one. However, I think my purpose may be better served by selling the others and hoping I may acquire duplicates items in the future. These next few items here, however, are simply random junk that are better for selling to acquire far fewer credits than I should. Except for the compass. The next batch of items are more random junk and garbage I found lying around. I really must question what use the UC Distribution Center could possibly have for all of these garbage items I am selling. I can't imagine that anyone would seek to purchase them. Is she reusing them in some capacity? As many of these things once contained food items that would seem to be quite unsanitary. While most of the items I'm selling are random junk and garbage, some are random everyday items for which I've found no use in game, and they are better used as bartering fodder. If you know better, then by all means, tell me in the comments. Many of the random everyday items I'm selling are in fact pieces of medical and research equipment for which there is no practical use in game. However, they do fetch a somewhat higher price with vendors, though not as high a price as they should. Some of the items you may have just seen me sell appeared to be tools for construction that should be useful for building things in-game, but alas, they too have no practical use, and are merely random items used to add clutter to a space. However, they too fetch higher prices. Now it seems we're back to selling research equipment, along with some pens and markers. Sniff sniff, hooray. It would seem that we have a great deal of research equipment no doubts taken from that abandoned laboratory on Crete that had been taken over by Crimson Fleet. At long last, we've come around to selling the dozens of notepads I collected. Though I must question, who in the year 2333 is using notepads in a time when data slates are readily available and there is no need to kill trees simply to make these notepads? Once again, we are back to selling various random nicks and also necks, in addition to a selection of pens. Though I must ask once again, when we have data slates that can record a great deal of information, who is using notepads, notebooks, and pens? I could see the markers because we do still have dry erase boards, but why pens? As you can see, we finally come across the individual playing cards that we've collected so far. You may also remember the box of playing cards from earlier in the video. Sadly, you cannot access the playing cards within, and I wonder why it's even in the game when we have these individual playing cards. It seems like a waste of space that could have been spent on something much cooler. Why, I ask you, do they have so many containers in the game that do not contain anything? They serve no purpose and are a colossal waste of space. There seems to be far too much of this in Starfield. If you are still watching the video at this point, then kudos, and bear with me, my intrepid crew. This is my first time bartering with a generally goods merchant in Starfield. The video is almost done, and future bartering sessions will be much quicker. At long last, we've come down to selling the succulents. Why are there so many succulents in Starfields? You would think they would be an ingredient in something, but no, they are just a pointless object. Well, that will just about be the end of the video. So, for now, thank you for watching. Download, comment, like, share, subscribe. I hope you were infotained. Keep all water fluoride free. Deboots the reboots. Let's make Saints Row 5. And I will see you on the next video. Giddy giddy boy.